Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review. I'm your host, creator of the show, Luis Jimenez. So glad you guys are here. We've got a really fun show in store for you guys. We've got an interview with Caroline Cory, director of the film A Tear in the Sky. So that's going to be a lot of fun. She'll be hanging out for an hour. And then we've also got UFO video of the day and a couple other news and notes and things that we're going to go over in the second hour. So before we get to that, of course, I want to say hello and thank you to everyone in the chat. I see all of you there. You guys are amazing. Awaiting Aliens, Renee, you guys have been hanging out there for a while. Curious George, what's going on? Thank you guys so much for being here. Also want to say that we are on KGRADB every Thursday from 3 to 5. And I don't know, let me bring in Bill here for a second. Bill, am I allowed to announce the other thing?
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Bill. That's our producer, Bill, from KGRADB. So we are going to start going on Thursdays. We're moving from 3 to 5, to 5 to 7. So 5 to 7 Pacific Daylight Time. That will be 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Man, we'll talk about that in the second hour. But yeah, it was a tough decision. I will be 100% honest with you. I really struggled over this decision. It really came down to me. I was trying to lean on you guys, and you guys just made my decision even more confusing and more difficult. But we'll get into it in a second. Before we do, of course, I want to remind you guys that this show is free. We are a public access channel. We're supported by viewers like you. So if you can, support through Patreon. Patreon's a wonderful way to support the show, or through super chats, or become a member of YouTube, or buy some merch right below the video. Great way to support the show. And don't worry about it if you can't do that, which is totally understandable. All of our content is free. There's no paywall here, so enjoy at your leisure. I want to say thank you to the moderators. And if you do, or if you can't subscribe to our Patreon or whatever, just drop us a like, a share, subscribe, because that helps big time. So thank you for that. And links not only for our guest Caroline Cory, but for our co-host Jane and Rather are down below. Go support everyone's work. So without further ado, let's bring on the co-hosts. Rather be Squidding, Jane Kyle. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Good. I'm excited for today's interview, especially after watching Tear in the Sky.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many, it left a lot.
Questions?
Yeah, so many questions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it'll be interesting to get a peek behind the curtains.
Yeah.
No, this is going to be great because this is the director, so we can ask her anything. she probably was in the editing room from conception from soup to nuts, as we like to say in Hollywood. So without further ado, let us bring on director, award-winning film director. We'll get into that in a couple minutes. Miss Caroline Cory from Tear in the Sky. Hello, Caroline. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm great. How are you doing?
We're doing really well. Happy to see your face. I tell you, your smile is probably one of the best things about the film. Your enthusiasm shines through it. So that's first thing right off the bat. Absolutely love the smile. Just love the energy that you bring and the passion that you're bringing to your project. So congratulations on the film. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. Jane, I'll let you start. I mean, what you see? You had some questions, so fire away for Miss Caroline Cory.
Oh man. Well, I do want to start off by saying that I've seen you speak a few times at past conferences, and so I've been a fan for a while. So thanks so much for being here. And I think it's so wonderful that you put this film together. I mean, I know there were a lot of people involved, but I think it's so inspiring, and I just think it's awesome that you're here. But man, I have so many questions. I guess I think the top of the mind one is probably almost like something to end with, but I feel like there was just such a cliffhanger with the Tear in the Sky. It's like I just want to know more. And I mean, first of all, I recommend people check it out and our review. When can we find out more? Is it more of the results, more of the follow-up? Is it going to be a website? We could have a YouTube series. Like,
we're starting with the ending, right?
Yeah, this is a Quentin Tarantino style interview.
Well, we could save it for the end, and you can brew on it. But it really is like the most pressing question I have, and yeah, I mean, you don't have to say what it is that you guys are uncovering, but if there's
I think
any like
people get it. I
timeline.
think
Yeah.
I think people get it. And actually, just just to say that I called the film "A Tear in the Sky" 2 years ago, meaning before we went out to discover anything. And I know you are referring to the tear in the sky at the end of the
course.
movie, right?
Sure.
So that was kind of an interesting coincidence. Is there, if there is such a thing? But yeah, I mean, so I went in for the first time. We had never done this before. No one had ever done anything like this before. It was a huge undertaking. Oops. Now, I don't know how you can receive text when your phone is off. You guys tell me about that one.
Well,
I
it's
don't.
probably coming through your computer. That's why.
No, even the computer is
Oh.
it's
Yeah,
turned off.
yeah. I don't know. You're definitely asking the wrong guy.
I don't know. Are they
Anything's
like
possible.
playing tricks with us or something? Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I went in there. I went in really not. I mean, totally blinded. Like, I just have to do this. Totally faithful that something was going to happen. And how many times you've heard, you probably also have had the same experience, researchers that go on these expeditions and nothing happens, and this was a big production. I mean, you saw the number of people involved. We had like maybe 10 cameras running at the same time in all locations. The editing was insane. So anyway, this was a big deal. And I was just praying for one thing. I was like, okay, just give me one cool thing to happen, And sure enough, I knew it was going to be July 14th for some reason. And so we scheduled it the week of July 12th to the 16th. And the first event that happened was July 14th. But it was like,
Wait, so you had a premonition that you guys were going to catch something in that 2-day period?
July 14th, yeah.
How long before you decided that's the date we're going to film it that you had that premonition?
In March, because that's when we
Wow.
planned the production, like end of March, something. I don't remember exactly, but it was something
So
like
almost
that.
4 months.
Something like that, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, so but then as we got closer, and the bills are stacking up, and it's getting more and more real, I'm thinking, oh my God, please, something, let's make sure something happens. And so the first thing that happened was July 14th, but that was Dave Altman who found this but like this object floating in the sky. And it was okay. I mean, it was good. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, wait, we're making a film here with all of this equipment, all of this device. We got to get something better. So every day I was like praying for more and more. And then at the end, which is what you're talking about, when we stumble on this thing, which is literally some sort of tear in the sky, I was like, what? Is this for real? And I don't know. I mean, they are still investigating what it could be, but we have enough detail in the film that it is an anomaly. It's not a glitch in the camera, because we can see what's before and what's after in several days, as a control, if you will, to compare. So it's not a camera malfunction. It's not, I mean, we don't know if it's some sort of weather anomaly, although the radar picks up on, again, this sort of opening and closing of a cloud-like thing, opening and closing, but the radar picks up on reflective objects in there. So, okay, well, how many things have you ever heard of that open and close, revealing reflective objects? So it's really a big mystery. I mean, and these, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, just because you had mentioned it, by any chance, did you guys happen to show that radar footage to a meteorologist to get maybe their opinion on if there's a weather anomaly that fit that what you guys captured?
Yeah, so Kevin Knuth was leading that investigation, and he's the one who got the weather radar. And so I don't know if he questioned them specifically on what it is that we found, but we got the maps from the radar from them, and it showed it kind of a cluster exactly in the same location. But the mystery is not so much. So basically what they're saying, yes, there is something there. But what they cannot explain is those objects.
Right.
And because the radar doesn't pick up on radiation, doesn't pick up on just light, it picks up on reflective objects. So that's kind of what was the most, I think, convincing at the time, that wait a minute, that what is that?
Yeah.
And so of course, people will see that in a film, but these are hardcore scientists. These aren't scientists who are going to look at something and go, "Oh, we got a wormhole." I mean, they're very, very, in fact, they checked, maybe it's what we call a false streak cloud, some sort of cloud thing where the crystals fall, create a hole. And it wasn't that, because first of all, the weather is too warm. It's too low to the ground. So that's not it. It's nothing that would pass through an airplane or something that would create some sort of hole. So it doesn't correlate with any radiation, cosmic radiation. I mean, solar flare or anything like that. However, it did correlate with a huge spike in radiation on our equipment. And so that's why it's absolutely mind-boggling what this thing is. And just for you to know, we kind of had to wrap the film because it was intriguing enough with the evidence that we had to say this is an anomaly. Now, like what you were asking, what's next? The scientists continue to study and find out what else it could be. And I also I continue to investigate because I've had people who work with NASA and other types of organizations who saw the film and who emailed me. And I'm like, do you know what this is? Like, have you seen things like that? The closest that we've gotten is that there is something similar, but very far away in outer space. Where objects, or I don't know what kind of objects, but they would appear and then disappear in the next, frame. But these objects out there are massive objects, and they still say that it's not the same phenomenon. It's the closest we know of. And if this were to happen here, so close, because this was 1,500 feet above our heads, that's not very high. These objects will fall down because of gravity. I mean, because they were massive objects. So all this to say, it's still a mystery, and we're still investigating.
Yeah, it's a very, very intriguing movie. The movie kind of sold me to go to the SCU conference next week, where they're going to be presenting more of that data. I'm really interested to see what comes out of that. Kind of going back to the beginning, though, I'm curious, what would you have done if you didn't find anything? Because, as you said, it was a really risky endeavor. You're only there for 5 days. Would you have gone ahead and created a movie, or would you have waited and tried to get more data?
Yeah, I would have wiped off the smile off my face for the first time ever. I was really, really so nervous because it was such a huge thing. And I mean, the backup plan, I don't know, everything came together so strangely. Like I said, originally I was going to make the sequel of my previous film. And then I had this intuition, like, no, go and do this UFO film right now. So, of course, I like to bring science to paranormal subjects. I've done that with other topics, with consciousness, mind matter, all kinds of other things. And so I said, well, if I'm going to do a UFO film, I'm going to have to do the same approach, which is a scientific thing. And the first thing you do as a filmmaker, you research what else is out there, who's done something similar, so you don't repeat. And I was shocked that, because you can learn from others, experiences and mistakes or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And so I researched, and I was shocked. Me and my production team were like, what?
Nobody's done this. Yeah.
No one has done anything. Of course, there are the folks in Norway. He's amazing.
But that's one camera from one
yeah,
angle.
Yeah, well, just like only a few. No one's done anything at that scale. And then instead of kind of because I wanted to get their data, like how did they do it or whatever, and just so that we can help each other. Anyway, because of that, I was like, you know what? I'm even more convinced we need to do this, no matter what it costs or no matter what. So, but like I said, I was kind of begging and, asking and praying, like, please, 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 something. And I don't know, deep inside me, I knew we were going to get something. But I have to tell you, it was like last minute. And in other words, it wasn't on the first day. In fact, it was the opposite. The first 2 days, it was horrible. It took forever to set up. Some software was not working. The power went out. So all the calibration of the equipment was gone.
Wow.
We lost 2 hours of data after calibrating a bunch of equipment. I mean, and I was like, okay, in production, that scale of production, every minute, it's like $20,000, $30,000, I mean, this is, and so I don't know, it was very, very last minute, but I still I felt something was going to happen. And I thought worst case, we will have to redo it again down the road, maybe with another sponsor or something like that, or maybe potentially extend, because originally it was 10 days and the budget was so crazy. I was like, no, because I funded the film, and I said, let's do 5. And if we come back empty handed, we'll worry about it. And then sure enough, it worked out.
Wow. Well, okay. So then let me ask you, because I'm also a filmmaker here in Los Angeles. I'm an actor as well.
Oh.
And I know a little bit about filmmaking. So when you were pitching this film, were you telling investors, I think I'm going to get something, but also giving them the caveat, like, I can't guarantee you anything? Like, I think because that's the thing that I think I loved about your film the most, is that this is the first time it has ever been done where you have 3 different crews in 3 different locations trying to triangulate an object in the sky. And obviously that's going to cause some production problems because you have to coordinate 3 different crews to do the same thing at the same time. And then, we saw in the movie that when you guys got the Catalina, there's no trucks there. So I don't know. I'm curious to know, did you guys have more equipment for Catalina that you just couldn't get there?
Yeah, it was a pain. Since you're in production, you have an idea, and you're in Los Angeles, so
Yeah.
So when we were in pre-production, we were talking to the folks in the film commission, who they're not even on Catalina, they're in LA,
Right.
and I was shocked to like there was no help whatsoever. Forget about PAs. There's no PAs. There's maybe one guy, there are no trucks, there's no cars.
Right.
And also on the ferry, you're limited with the amount of weight or whatever, because people just take their luggage. Nobody's taking, I don't know I don't know if there were ever some big production crews who did anything there, but I can tell you, also, they said, well, because we were going to do it in another part of the island. And they were like, yeah, but we're not going to close the road for you. You could do it. You could do it in this spot if you want. We don't close any roads. And it's, it was something ridiculous. It was $8,000 for an hour or something insane.
Wow.
And they can't guarantee that they would close the road. And I'm like, what
am I paying for?
Why am I even like considering Catalina? It was so bad from a production standpoint.
It's difficult to film there.
I would never, like, if I had the choice as a production, I would never film there. Never.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was the movie.
Yeah. Well, did you find out? Did those revelations come to you as you showed up on the island with the crew? Did you not like realize that, or were these things that you knew before you got there and you planned for it?
No, we planned for it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So in pre-production, we were like, "Oh my God, this is
Got it,
so
got it.
difficult." So we can't do it
Because
there.
the
We
movie,
can't do it this-
the movie made it seem a little bit like you guys showed up and you're like, "Oh my God, like how are we gonna get all of this equipment up there? Like there's no way."
Yeah, so we
that's why
had
I
a
was
lot
asking.
more. Yeah, we had a lot more. And also, it was in the middle of July. You couldn't find a hotel, you couldn't find an Airbnb.
Summertime.
And so we started out with a bigger, it was the other way around. We had most people on Catalina and just a couple, you know, on Laguna Beach. And after discovering all this logistical nightmare, we said, there's no way. So we kept reducing
Yeah.
the team and the equipment because we had a weight issue as well to get on the ferry. And even when we got there, poor Dave Altman and Michael, they had
to lug it.
Yeah, even
you
our
could see it on their faces.
Yeah, even the
You
camera
can see
guy
it.
was like, I mean, it was so logistically, it was very, very difficult. And
Yeah.
yes, I wasn't like on the Laguna side. I'm the director, and I'm literally directing 3 crews. I mean, 3 at the same time. And sometimes, you know, we were filming at night, so we would end. I don't remember. I think it was 2 a.m. or so. I don't remember. Something 3 a.m. or something like that. And then I had to have a conference with the other, you know, DPs on the other locations after to prepare for the next day. So it was, I mean, the production was very, very, very difficult.
Yeah. So go back to the investors. Was it like how?
Oh yeah.
How did you convince them? You know, because that's a like it's already hard enough to raise money for a film, but to come to somebody and be like, "Hey, I want to try and catch some UFOs in the sky." I have a pretty good feeling we're gonna get them because we got 3 locations and this is the idea. But like, I can't guarantee anything. You know, were they okay with making that investment and you coming back possibly empty-handed?
Yeah, so I had the choice, you know, to either pitch it to investors or even a network, or fund it myself and then basically sell it to them, to a network or something as a standalone or as a series. And I decided to actually fund it myself because
100%.
yes, I had
Wow.
a couple of private sponsors who support me and my work, who came through when we got to William Shatner, because that was an added cost that, you know, we weren't planning. I wasn't planning, and then a couple of smaller things. So, but it was mostly, I decided to fund it to also have the creative control. I didn't want to bother with, you know, people who had all these restrictions. And so I said, I'm just going to risk it. So I literally risked my own money and did all of this on my own.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna ask one more question. I swear I'll let you guys ask one question. How do you see this? Because it's like when we reviewed the film, I said it feels a little bit like a sizzle, like you're trying to pitch an idea. So how would you see this as a film or as a series? What would you like to see it filmed as?
Oh my God, it's definitely a series. I mean, how could it not be? We just
Right.
go there in 5 days and we capture all these strange things in the sky in one location. So it's like, I mean, the sky's the limit. Not sky's the limit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's because if we did this only in one location, you know, in 5 days, then of course it needs to be repeatable. Do we go back to the same location? And there's like so many other locations, you all know, you know, I mean, all the areas that, you know, Utah and Northern Oregon and this, I mean, there's so many areas, the Hudson Valley, big time. And so of course this would definitely be a series.
Cool. All right, go for it, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Now maybe I would go to, and I'm not sure. I'll see how it goes because I have different options to go to, distribution companies who also finance or investors. So we'll see how to proceed with that because that would be a very, very big financial undertaking to do a whole series.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I have different ideas.
I like it.
Yeah, or go ahead, Jane. Yeah.
Well, one thing that I know that you've spoken about a lot is just about consciousness and what all that means. And so I was wondering, and I appreciated the really pretty strict scientific approach in this, in A Terror in the Sky. But I know, of course, there's so much beyond, what we can just, practically, experiment with. Did you do anything to try to consciously connect with these UFOs? And then as a follow-up to that, do you think there are any dangers to that? Is there anything you did to protect, yourself and the crew from potentially, I guess, negative entities, if you will?
Okay, so that wasn't an option with this team. Normally, just for people who don't know me, like I said, I feel as a filmmaker anyway, I try to take a paranormal subject and make it normal, by introducing the science that we have that could potentially validate this paranormal phenomenon. So in the case of this film, UFOs, I wanted to do the scientific approach. And since it's never been done before, I wanted to invite different types of scientists and see what we come up with. But then I stumbled on Kevin Day and on this team, and Dave Altman was on the team, and I knew him from somewhere else. And anyway, so I connected with Kevin Day, and he said, "Oh, well, I have this team, and there's 2 scientists already on board, and I've been wanting to do this." So I thought, oh, well, if they've been wanting to do this and they already have scientists, why don't I give that, even though they had never done it, they had never gone out to do anything. But kind of we had the same goal. So I thought, oh, I will try with this team for the first, because it was for this first expedition. Why not? And these scientists are incredible. I mean, Kevin Knuth and Matthew Shadagas are brilliant, but they are hardcore scientists. And I wanted to, which is good because that's what this film is about. But to introduce anything that had to do with consciousness or connection or intention, like sometimes I remember in the beginning, I would be like, well, let's set our intention that we're going to catch something. And I would get like 0 response. Like, what is she talking about? Like we're not into this, like, forget it. Even sometimes we were butting head, a little bit on that subject. So I kind of realized I was on my own with that subject, and I just let it be. And it's fine, like I said, because this first film was just nuts and bolts. So fine. So, but knowing that there's 100% connection. I mean, I had way too many experiences. I know hundreds of people who had very, very huge experiences with interacting, with communication. And so I was doing my homework, on my own in the hotel room. I was like, okay, guys, give me something, whether they believe or not, show me something, one significant, compelling thing, please, please, please. And it would happen. So we didn't do anything either in terms of protection or anything like that, because they didn't believe in it.
Yeah,
they didn't
like
go there.
you didn't need to.
I'm
Yeah.
like, they don't. So that was this particular setup in this film, which is fine. Like I said,
I love that you can compartmentalize it in a way, right, and separate it out and look at it through different angles. So yeah, I appreciated that. Rather, what were you going to ask?
Wait, I'm curious how you settled on the location of Catalina Island. Was that UAPX? Were they wanting to go there? Was that your suggestion? And was there any contention about other places?
Yeah. So because part of the it was Kevin Day, and then when he told me his story, I mean, of course, his story was already on the internet and everything else. But then when we talked on the phone for the first time, he told me his story. I realized how much his life was affected by this whole thing. I wasn't even going to touch on the story, to be honest. I thought everybody knows about it. Let's just go and do. But I was so touched. And then there's Gary, and then there's Jason. There's three. And then Ryan Weingeld also that I met. And so it just felt that their story was still relevant, and so as we were talking, okay, so how are we going to go about this? What are we going to do? They said so because their story was, I was very touched, and because it happened in Catalina, I looked at all the other Navy ships, and I realized that the USS Omaha, the USS Kidd, and I think there's a third one, I can't remember, they all had those same tic-tac swarming events around their ship, all in the same area. So I thought, I mean, does it make sense to, to try to go back, since, we want to tell their story? It would be totally crazy and wild. That's another thing that was kind of prophetic or whatever. We didn't go with the idea, oh, we're going to go back to find these tic tacs, but that's exactly what we found. So we went back to the area because of their story, hoping to capture something. And we ended up capturing not just something, but things that looked exactly like the Tic Tac. You saw it in the movie, traveling against the wind, the same shape, the stuff raining down, pouring down. I've never seen anything like it on the internet or anywhere. So that was another piece, just like the Tear in the Sky ended up being a Tear in the Sky. Their story, came out. It's kind of like it came full circle.
Well, it almost felt like it was a documentary in a way about the UAPX team.
It wasn't about the team.
In a way, not. I mean, like yeah. I'm saying, like it was. It felt like it. Not only was it. We're learning who this team is, but we're also doing this experiment for the first time, and I felt like those things were equal.
Yeah, it was equal, but again, it wasn't intended. It ended up being that. That's what I'm saying, which was fascinating. So it's not like we said, oh, let's go back and find those same Tic Tacs, and then I hired Kevin Day, and you know what I mean. It was all the synchronicities is what's fascinating in this whole thing. And so I wanted just anything. And then when the first time we saw this Tic Tac like thing, we were like, what is this possible? Like, is that the same thing? So that's where you start to think like, wow, was this whole thing kind of orchestrated that way? Like it's so bizarre, all these coincidences, especially the footage where you see the stuff falling down. I've never seen anything like this, where it's literally raining down in the water, illuminating the water at very, very high speed. Do you remember that clip? Mm-hmm. That blew my mind. And Gary looked at it. He was like, oh, this looks exactly like those Tic Tacs. They were just like dropping in the water. So fascinating.
Well, no, I mean, it seems like it would be Catalina. I mean, just from a strategic standpoint, it seems like that absolutely is a great place to set up equipment and a team of people. But yeah, the logistics to do that, it seems like a lost opportunity. It's almost probably, and you probably couldn't even do this even if you had a huge ship, but a huge ship would probably be the best thing to set up out there and set your equipment on, so then you wouldn't have to deal with all of the logistics of Catalina Island. But yeah, I mean, I see why you guys did it, because it's a perfect spot, and it's a great spot to triangulate to and from. But if you could go back to the beginning of production, knowing what you know now, what would you change? If not one thing, if not a couple things.
Yeah, and by the way, we did consider having a boat. And and then we realized, wait a minute, it's just way, it's hard to control,
right?
To calibrate the equipment, it's not safe for the equipment. We had so many cameras, and
Right.
it's like, so it was just like way too risky. It was already risky. It was
Right.
already crazy risky. And so the boat thing, we said, you know what? There's too many complications with a boat, and we already have 3 locations. So we said, let's just scratch the boat for this first expedition. Would I do it in the next expedition? Still not. But I would definitely do things differently next time for sure. One,
Like what did you learn? I guess is really.
oh my God,
This is what it is.
we learned so much. First of all, the equipment, I mean, we had an amazing amount of equipment, as you saw, and the type of equipment we had, industrial grade, FLIRs, 8 of them to cover the whole sky. So but it took a long time to set up and to make sure everything was synchronized. And then the data that was collected, it was hundreds of hours. I mean, hundreds. And so
Where do you
that's
store that?
yeah. So they're still going through it right now. I mean, we just pulled whatever was interesting enough for the film, but there's so much more they're still going through. And so that's one thing to plan better, the setup time, but also to process the data on set, in a realistic way, the storage. And so that part was very, very tricky that we can plan better next time. Also, yeah, I would definitely do triangulation again, but maybe slightly differently. Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time going back to Catalina. If I go, it's gonna have to be, oh my God, like maybe not in the middle of July, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah, where all the tourists are there and stuff. I mean, I
Yeah.
know History Channel definitely shot there, but as I'm thinking back, they didn't set up there for days. I feel like you could have gone out with what they filmed. They probably took 1 drone and 1 camera guy and got
Yes.
everything they needed. And
Yes.
that's probably the best way to shoot on Catalina.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, if you had to triangulate it on land, say, where would be your first dream destination?
Well, I mean, if we were to go back in the same area, you can triangulate from 2 points also. You don't have to be in
Yeah.
3 points,
Right.
So, but we'll see. So I'm planning right now, I'm writing the next episode, so to speak, to see how it can be consistent, but also build on it and move forward and add more to the topic. Because, as much as this is nuts and bolts, and I love that, but you can't, to me, it still has something to do with entanglement and quantum mechanics and stuff like that, and the way these warp engine fabric of space-time warping and bending light and stuff like that. There's so much more that I like to consider,
Right.
that to, even if we still do it scientifically, but I like to at least talk about these potential things, and so we'll see how I'm writing it in a way that it's consistent with what we did, but also builds on that and make it logistically more realistic, easier.
From a go ahead, rather. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm quite curious if UAPX, looks at this data and they find out that they can find kind of prosaic explanations for everything. Maybe it's some new atmospheric, phenomenon or other cool stuff. Would you still view this as a success, and would you still try to do other expeditions? I'd argue yes, it'd still be valuable, but I'm curious to know what your thoughts would be.
It's 100% valuable because, it's still like, what is it? This is not a known. These are physicists. Don't forget, these are. One is an exoplanet expert, so all he does is search for planets, and things, in the cosmos. And Matthew is a radiation, a dark matter expert. He knows about radiations and particles. And so if between the two, and then there's Christopher Altman as well. So if between them and their colleagues and all the people so far who looked at it, nobody can come out and tell me, oh, this is some atmospheric when this happens, that happens. I mean, just that the fact that those prosaic answers haven't been questions haven't been answered, it's still some sort of a strange anomaly that hasn't been discovered, or that is not common, that's for sure. And we're talking, we're checking with like we were saying, radar folks and NASA folks and other folks. So I mean, I don't mind. It is what it is. I'm open-minded. I have my own theory, but that's I'm open to whatever it can be. The fact of the matter is, the way we ended the film today, it's still a big mystery and a big question mark.
Could you maybe expand on what your own theory is?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that whether it's this anomaly or similar ones, but in general, in fact, that's why I called the film A Tear in the Sky, because I feel that it has to do with the magnetic field around the planet. And there are specific points within this magnetic field where it crisscrosses. There are places, in fact, NASA talks about this a little bit out in outer space, where the magnetic lines, if you will, intersect. And where they intersect creates like a sort of a warp, or some sort of warp in the fabric of space. All kinds of anomalies could happen in these intersecting points. They call it magnetic reconnection, something like that. And so I believe there's such a thing around the planet. And so where those points, those nodes, where the magnetic field is kind of warped like that, these intersecting point, this is where what would allow a UFO or some sort of thing to bend light, for example, to warp, so that you can see it and then it appears, disappears, or travel in a weird trajectory, or do things like that. So I feel that one of these nodes, hotspots, if you will, have to do with the magnetic anomaly, and one of them is in the Catalina area, and others as well. And some of them, it's not just above us, but it's also below us, underwater. And so that's my theory. You asked me.
Do any of these, where you guys film, do you believe that there's that type of interaction there as far as the magnetic field is concerned?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I think. There's another one in the Malibu area, and other places too, like I said, but we just happened to go back to that one. And there are cases of anomalous things happening there since, I think the 40s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at least the 60s for sure. And so this is not a new thing. It's not like just a couple of cases here and there. And so that's why I feel it has to do with this magnetic anomaly in that region.
Have you ever thought to, like, maybe in future episodes, look for anomalies and, let's say, a control, like a spot where you don't suspect there's magnetic anomalies? Just because I will say, as far as the Tic Tac UFO goes, I feel like there are a lot of those reports in Texas and maybe around the country, for example. So maybe this is a much wider phenomenon, but I don't know how you would, unless you know already where those lines are. Do you have like an idea of how many of those points there could be?
Yes, again, it's my theory.
Sure,
I've yet to prove it. I'm working on it. But yeah, so I feel it's very geometric. These are patterns. It's not random. People think things are are random, but I personally think there are patterns, just like patterns in everything. In the physical matter has patterns and has geometry. So I feel there is a geometric patterning of space itself is actually geometric. And so actually, I don't know if you guys know of Bruce Cathy. So he's a pilot, a commercial pilot in New Zealand, and I think it was in the 70s. And so he would fly. His regular route was from, I don't know, New Zealand to Australia or something like that. So every day he would fly, and he would notice in the same spot every single time a strange anomaly, like a sort of an orb that would come out of nowhere, zigzag, do some weird stuff, and disappear. So the first time was like, oh, okay, what is that? Then the second time, because it's the same route, right? The second time it does the same thing. So at the end, he's like, wait a minute, it's always in the same spot. Why is that? So he starts to write down the coordinates, which direction he was going, where he saw it, what it did. And then he's on a different route, and then he sees something similar. And then so he notices that, again, that other thing happens exactly in that same spot. So again, he writes down that those coordinates. Long story short, he ends up finding 3 spots, always anomalies happening in these 3 spots, which formed a triangle. So then he goes, okay, well, if it's here, here, and here, well, maybe, I'm guessing, the 4th point should be there, maybe another triangle. Does that make sense? And sure enough, he goes on his own and he finds that spot, and so on and so forth. Before you know it, he basically finds a sort of a grid pattern, a tetrahedral, a triangular pattern, where these anomalies would happen exactly at these intersecting points where the 2 triangles could, And so he ends up mapping out this entire grid system. And he's not the only one. Actually, he ends up finding that it's a grid within a grid within a grid. And always these anomalies happen exactly at these points. There's somebody else also who, the Russians actually mapped out a grid as well around the planet. And then there's somebody else also who talks about those intersecting lines. So I'm just kind of telling you of the different approaches, to all pointing to the fact that it is possible that these spots, these hot spots, aren't random, that they are geometric. I mean, there is a pattern to space itself. That is, again, what I've researched and discovered so far, and what I believe in. And it makes more sense to me than it. Now, it doesn't mean that if you have a warp engine, that you can also warp the fabric of space-time anywhere you want. But it's kind of like these are the points of the highways, if you will, where the patterning of space itself. And I believe that's the way it is.
That's pretty wild. That's the first time it almost sounds like a simulation a little bit. The way you described it almost felt like, man, that feels like a gate or like a a barrier of some kind. Well,
it's
like
not,
it. So,
it's not one line. It's like you heard of ley lines and things like that. So the ley lines are on the surface of the planet, but then all around, we're not 2D, we are 3D, we're multi,
right.
So that's why it doesn't stop on the surface of the planet. It's kind of everywhere. It's above us, it's below us. And so anyway, I think, so just to answer your question, would you know where to go? I would project, I would assume, just like the Bruce Cathy did, if it's in this point and this point, well, let me try that 3rd point and see if it's there, and just figure it out from there.
That's, I mean, I feel like you're just trying stuff, and that's good.
Yeah.
Might as well, especially if you've got the budget to do so. We were talking because we also I think we all decided that, this would be a great TV show, but I think a layer that would be cool is to somehow get universities and kids involved in making these systems, or improving on the data collecting aspect of it, if that makes sense, and sort of open source it to kids in universities and challenge them to come up with a better system of filming these things, or triangulating, just like you tried to do in the film. What do you think of that kind of idea?
That's a great idea. I love that idea.
Cool.
Yeah.
All
That's
right. Well, I'll get on the phone with Stanford tomorrow. See what we can work out.
but the problem is, like, again, so do we give them iPhone? Like, do we give them equipment? Like, how it's kind of a whole project of its own.
Well, I think if you've got an astronomy department in the school, they
yes.
might have access to equipment. And I mean, like, because I know there's a lot of different equipment that is starting to pop up out there that can look at the sky, particularly designed to look for anomalous objects like Skyhub 360. And I mean, I know Jeremy McGowan's got his Osiris project, and there's a whole bunch of independently, the Galileo project, these little independent sort of independent science coalitions popping up here and there, and they're designing camera systems. And I just think it would be cool if you have an astronomy department of a major university saying, all right, here, here's the challenge. We're trying, here's the camera system, or here's the idea, and we want your ideas or your theories on how to either improve the systems. I mean, I know like the biggest issue I would assume collecting this type of data is, like you said, is the storage of it.
Yes.
Like being able to store, like, how is there a way to still have all of these wonderful industrial camera systems and compress it so it doesn't need as much space, things like that. I don't know. I just think it's such a cool idea. And like I said at the beginning, you're the first person to ever try and do this. So you're kind of like, you're literally writing the book on how to approach this, and people can look at your film, or they can contact you and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What would you recommend? What are the pitfalls that you fell into? Like, how do we improve on the system? Because I think this film is going to be the first of many. I think a lot of other production companies are going to try and start doing things like this. And in 20 years, I mean, this is going to look all so much more sophisticated than it did the first time we tried it. And that's all because of you, so that's awesome. And I feel like that's a perfect opportunity for a place of higher education to possibly get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's incredible. And it's true. I mean, we literally made history because, regardless of what that one thing ends up being, it's the whole thing, the whole idea that's a first. So yeah, and we learned so much. So imagine the next people who are going to try to do this. They're going to want to know and want to improve. So that's the idea. And so I'm all for it. But also another very important point is not just the storage, it's the processing of the data. That's a huge deal, because
that's something also kids could do too.
Yeah, because, like, for example, Matthew wrote a script, software where you could go through the footage much faster. And even the UFO DAP system has a system where it rules out right away, if it's an airplane or a bird or something like this. So you don't waste your time looking through those. Right. But even with that, you still have to go through it manually and look at, sometimes when you see something, you have to go slow it down frame by frame. I mean, that's how you miss most of the stuff. Right. And so that's the problem. Like, you need software, incredible new software, and you need the human also, unfortunately, to go through it as well. Right. So that we need a huge, like, the universities would be great. The kids, teaching them to identify, what's a bird versus, I mean, because on a FLIR, you can't tell, you have to know, you have to train your eye to recognize these things.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine what it takes to run a FLIR system. But yeah, you're right. I mean, analyzing all this stuff it takes years.
Yes.
Years.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm curious, do you think, because I know the SCU and Matthew Shigatis and Kevin Knuth and the whole team over there, they haven't come to any conclusions, and they're still looking at the data. But how confident are you that the data will win out, that whatever you guys caught is in fact special?
I'm already confident. Yeah. I already, because again, like I said, even if they came back to say, we think at the end of the day, this is an atmospheric. You're talking about the wormhole thing, right?
Yeah,
Mostly, right?
or I mean, mostly, yeah.
No, the other stuff is definitely anomalous. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, I mean, it's but even if they say, well, at the end of the day, we think it might be a weather thing, it must have been so rare for everybody to say we have no idea what this is.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, if it's that common, then right off the bat, we'll be like, oh, So even with that, it is definitely special. That's what I'm saying. I'm still very confident that whatever we find, no matter what the explanation is going to be down the road, it's still extremely special that no one could come out and tell us what it is from the academia world, and the experts' perspective. So,
I would like to see it one of two ways. If I had my, but of course, this is also if I had an unlimited budget. But I'd either like to see one location filmed for a couple of years, or if you're going to do a TV show, I'd like to see maybe 4 or 5 locations that's filmed for the whole season that you kind of bounce between. So that way it's a longer sample size.
Yes, for sure.
And it also, it's less stress for production to move from place to place to place to place. Hey, let's find 5 hotspots. Let's set up 5 triangulation setups, and let's film a whole season or a whole year worth of stuff. And I have a feeling you guys would come back with a bunch of stuff. But even if you did that, it would take. You would have to have a team, a production crew and team ready to sift through the data and then present that to an editor and then edit that into either a half-hour show and then decide what stays and what doesn't. But I have a feeling that would probably garner the coolest results. I mean, what do you think a budget like that would look like? Are we talking a couple $100 million here?
Yeah, insane. As you were talking, I'm like, keep adding all the dollars. Yeah, so definitely, so that's exactly. I mean, we have different ways of going at it, but definitely we need more time. Much easier for production if you are in one spot. I mean, like, for example, Skinwalker Ranch, even though there's all kinds of stuff going on, they're not focused on one anomaly, but still, like, they're in one location, everybody's there, so definitely. And every season is the same location. So that definitely makes it easier. But then if you're trying to put it in perspective of a larger phenomenon, like Jane was saying, is this happening everywhere for all we know? I think it is. So then one location, as much as you're going to collect a ton of data, but then it's not enough to come to any sort of conclusion in terms of a global phenomenon. So then you're going to have to repeat it in other places. So there's different ways to go about this. That's kind of where I'm in the process of doing, and this definitely we're going to have to be talking to networks or investors at that stage, because that's not going to do it. My little savings account is good. Like, it won't get us very far.
Well, can I ask you, did you go over budget? What was the budget?
Well, I can't say too much, about those details. We didn't go over. I mean, the only thing that was over budget was at the end, we decided to bring on William Shatner. And that was an interesting decision, because we were fine, actually, in the way I already had filmed Kaku, which I love. And it was okay, but somehow I wanted to bring a host originally. I didn't want to be the thread. But then I felt it's missing that researcher aspect, the person who's curious, who's asking the question, and that's
you're also the main funder of the project.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't care. I didn't have to be on camera. It was a lot for me to be behind. Yeah, it was a lot. But I felt as a character, like it was a better idea to have someone kind of tell the story in this way. But anyway, so what was I saying?
We're talking about
budget. Yeah, so at the end, I wanted to have a host, kind of a person who's not just UFO. Like, who's into UFOs that the UFO world would relate to, but also that the mainstream would enjoy. Because one of the things that I'm trying to do is make these paranormal, subjects mainstream.
Right.
I mean, we're so
Accessible.
lucky. Yeah, accessible, relatable. And we're so lucky now that we just had the congressional hearing and we had like all these reports being released. So it's a great opportunity. The timing of this is insane. And so if we wanted to have a character that people who aren't even in UFOs would be so curious that they would open up to that idea. And so anyway, we talked about William Shatner that one day, and I worked with him before. I met him before. I was like, you know what? I mean, I don't know. That's a stretch, but I'll try. And so I just sent one email and one phone call and it was a done deal. It was insane. And so, but that budget was not in the budget.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's great. He wants to do it, but now what? So I reached out to a friend of mine. Actually, I didn't want to deal with investors and stuff. And at the time we had the trailer. So I showed her without Shatner, obviously. Yeah. I showed her the trailer. I told her what it was about. And I said, he would be great as a bridge to the mainstream. And that's all, and plus, he is who he is. Come on, Yeah. And the scientists are actually inspired by science fiction. They all look up to him, actually. And so it was kind of an interesting balance. And I said, he would be great instead of just a random guy. And so she said, how much do you need? And that was it.
Nice. Gosh,
I'm telling you, this show, like,
how much would it cost to get William Shatner on this show for an hour?
Oh yeah. Well, that's like, he doesn't do any press whatsoever. Like, we got him on major stuff, and he was like, "No, that's it."
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't.
And you had a working relationship with him, right?
Not like this. It's not like we were buddies or anything like that. But regardless, no. It's not like that. But also, still,
it seemed like that.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but not. Anyway, you have to know. I mean, even if you're best friend with the biggest star in Hollywood, business is big.
You still got to pay them.
No, not only that, you have to go through the managers and the agents. You can't, they can't just go out and say, I'll do it I'll just show up on your film. Like, otherwise it would be a disaster for. So regardless, we had to go through the regular channels and everything else. I think he just liked the project. I told him, this is what we're doing. We've never done this before. And he said, they said, who do you have already signed? And then I said, well, they're already in the film, Michio Kaku and scientists from the University of Albany, and we're doing this, and it's all sciencey, And he said, I'm in.
Love it.
So,
well, do you guys have any final thoughts or questions for Caroline Cory before we let her go?
Quick suggestion on maybe a premise for your next movie. Have you ever considered a tear in the sea? Talking about how these things might be below us as well.
Great question.
Yeah, we'll see. Especially in Catalina, you guys must have heard all the stories of the USOs.
Right.
Since
it was also brought up. It was also brought up in the hearings, and it was the only thing that they refused to talk about in the hearings as well. So that's kind of interesting.
That was this whole hearing was so strange. I mean, like when I was thinking, like when they said, we don't have data. We only have 400 cases. And then this is the type of clips we get. And they're showing the clip. And I'm thinking, what are we looking at? And I'm thinking, why aren't they showing the Tic Tac? And also, I was thinking, my gosh, like, look, in my film,
you got better footage.
We're civilians, and we're like 5 days. In 5 days, and we got clear, stuff appearing, disappearing, rotating, registering cold. You saw these, stuff raining down. I mean. So anyway, I don't want to be judgmental this way, but all this to say that, with everything that's happening, this is very timely. And I think people who are into UFOs should watch it to give them that additional empowerment to go, like you're saying, Lou,
Yeah.
you know, what can I do to better, like to add to the research?
Right.
And on the mainstream, you know, hoping to reach more of the mainstream with this film because of the cast as well, and because of the approach, because it's not a woo-woo you know, story, and it's not just about CE5 stuff. Not to criticize, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that approach opens it up to the mainstream as well. And also, I'm hoping it will push more of the disclosure, because as civilians, we were able to collect clear data in 5 days. So hopefully that will push more for the
That'll
government.
definitely put the pressure on.
Exactly.
That'll definitely put the pressure on, because I think citizen science and citizen initiatives like this are what's worrying the government. I think that's probably why, in part, why we're getting some of this push to talk about it, because they see people like you coming. They, you know, and I mean, imagine if you had caught a top secret aircraft on your FLIR systems. Then you'd have an even crazier movie, you know, like
exactly.
So I think keep doing what you're doing. I really like this path that you've gone down here, because it's a path that you're blazing. You're making the path, and people are going to have to follow you because you're the first one who did this. So honestly, that's the thing that I loved about your film the most. Not only you're female in an all male world, as far as film directing is concerned, but you took a chance. Sounds like you took a huge chance with your own money. I didn't even know that. This is a film that you produced with your own cash, which is like rule number 1 in Hollywood. Don't ever fund your own film, ever. And you did it. So you believed in it. And then the execution of it, sure, it wasn't perfect, but damn it, it's the first time. Like, nobody's ever done it. So mistakes are expected. And the way you guys handled them, I thought was really well.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see a sequel and or, you know, a television show out of it, because that I think would be really cool. Really, really cool. But please, the floor is yours. If you like, tell everyone where they can find the film and any other things you'd like to talk about or possibly tease.
Yeah, again, I think that's like what you're saying. Because of all of these points, this film is very important for the UFO folks and for the mainstream. So I appreciate any sort of exposure, support, you know, putting it out there to help expedite, you know, push for that real governmental disclosure. That's really one of the reasons why I'm doing this as well. So I appreciate all the, you know, exposure, support, whatever people, they can also, if anybody has any additional ideas or something like that, once they watch the film, you know, they can go to the website, aterrainthesky.com. And this is where they can also watch it. They can, they will see all the different platforms, Amazon, iTunes, everything. All the different platforms are listed there, but they can also reach me and the team, and you know, for any sort of feedback or any ideas or anything like that. That would be fantastic. aterrainthesky.com.
Awesome. Well, Caroline Cory, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Thank you for making the film. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Yeah, same here. You guys were awesome. Your questions were awesome. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, my lady. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, you guys, Caroline Cory. That was.
Man, I didn't get in my last. I had a list of questions I didn't get to. So
Jane, why did you stay quiet?
Oh, because I was like, which one should I?
Hold on a second. Wait, she's back.
Well,
go ask one.
So this is kind of like a, I don't know, potentially fiery one. Luke kind of brought it up, but what is the potential that you are getting some like black ops like projects, you know, on film? And if you think it's possible, do you think that you're going to find out in the near future? Is that going to be, keep it elusive?
I don't know about finding out, I mean, in the future, but I know that this phenomenon and what we captured includes both things. I think it includes some human technology and also some real strange anomalies that are not of this world. That's my personal opinion. Again, I'm not, I can't prove, I'm doing my best to show the data. By the way, we didn't do anything to the data. Like what you see, nothing was enhanced, nothing was manipulated or anything. So just zooming, when you're zooming, we're not changing the image. We're just zooming in so you see better. So I definitely think we stumbled on both.
Thanks. Good answer.
Cool.
Great answer.
Well, okay, so I swear, last question before you really get out of here. But there's everybody's going back and forth in the chat right now. What's Caroline's accent? Where is she from?
Oh my God, I can't tell you because I'm from a different planet, and that's how we speak on my planet. So
No, don't say that. Oh my God.
Yes.
No, somebody says Pallades.
Mystery. Yeah, a little bit further out. I want to say a little bit further out.
Caroline Cory, you just went total woo on us.
I told you. Let's
Last
keep it
second.
mysterious. You're gonna have to bring me back.
Okay, all right, we'll bring you back. We'll get to the bottom of this accent, we swear.
Oh
Although
my God.
David Altman did say it was French, so
He's
maybe.
full of surprise. Oh well.
Yeah.
Only part of me, the human part of me.
I
The
love
rest
it.
is a different type of DNA. We'll talk
I
about it
can't
another
look.
time.
I can't. Oh my goodness! I was gonna say, if we have an actual extraterrestrial on the show right now, a hybrid extraterrestrial, that would be wow.
Pleasure.
All right,
Look,
yeah.
I'm
See you for the next show.
disappearing. Look, I'm disappearing.
I love it. All right, Caroline, thank you so much, my lady. We'll see you soon.
Bye, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thanks.
Wow. All right, so there you go, Jane. You got in a question.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem. I mean, I saw her waiting in the lobby. I was like, let's bring her in. Okay. So what did you guys think? What did you guys think of Caroline Cory and sort of the insight that the little peek behind the curtain that we got? Does it make you appreciate the film less or more, or?
Oh, more for sure. The fact that she backed it with her own money, I had no idea.
Crazy. That takes a lot of moxie. But also, I would say you'd have to have a lot of confidence too that you're gonna get the return on your investment. I hope she did. I hope she did, but you never know.
I mean, if she didn't in the short term, hopefully in the long term, right? You said this is like
it sounds like she did, only because she's writing more scripts.
Yeah, and it should lead. It could. Who knows what this could lead to, or papers, or future, right? Documentaries or episodes like we keep talking about. So, I think, considering like her theories around this, yeah, she probably really is banking on a lot of discoveries, coming in the future. But I've heard her speak before, and she always seemed very genuine, and so it's nice to just have that reaffirmed talking to her tonight. Yeah.
I hope that more movies come out or another TV show or something like that. I really respect her and her ability to kind of separate her personal opinion from the scientific data that she's collecting on these things.
But she does have a personal opinion.
Well, she does, but she states that it's her personal opinion, and it doesn't seem like it's really influencing the collection of data or anything like that. I trust that she's being objective when she's presenting these films, and I think it's a good approach. I have a lot of respect for her.
Well, here's what's also good about the way she did it, and Jeremy was screaming this in the like we they were not paid for the participation, but their expenses were covered. But the other thing he was saying was, Osiris does not, or the UAPX team does not sort of endorse these theories. We're still looking at the data, and I think that's what's good about separating the director and the producer and the people funding the film versus the science and the people looking at the data, because you can, everyone can have theories. That's okay. But, we also got to let the science do the science thing. Like you got to give it the time to sort of, to look over all the data and come to some kind of conclusion, if that can even be reached. I think the way it sounded, at least when I saw the guys make their UAPX presentation about the film, is that they got a long way to go to determine whether or not these things are anomalous. But they did seem excited about it. I think she's right when she says everything that it could have been has been ruled out. Like, whatever it is special, it is anomalous, whether it's alien, whether it's this, whether it's that, whether it's a wormhole, that's all up for debate. But I do like that the production part of things doesn't have an influence over the science. The science is going to take the data and run with it.
How likely do you think there's going to be an app like from like UFO DAP or that's affordable? Like that's or almost
I
free
think it's
on
coming,
everybody's
Jane.
phone, right?
I think it's coming. I really do think, and she made an excellent point. Like the data she collected in just 5 days,
Right.
whether you want to admit this or not, I don't care who you are. That's some of the best footage I've seen of anomalous things in the sky, and way better than anything our government has produced, shy of the gimbal, tic tac, and go fast, because those also come with pilot testimonies. But an independent researcher, that's a hell of a lot better than what was presented in Congress this last week.
Right.
That is for sure. And I really do think, we were discussing this somewhere, the ability where these iPhones pretty soon will be able to take a picture where you can zoom on it 10, 20 times and there's no degradation. The lenses are getting there, and the technology is becoming to a point where it's affordable. So I think, either Galileo or projects like this or whatever, I think there's a very good chance that a citizen captures something absolutely amazing and it turns out to be handmade tech.
Well, and they have and they have the data though. Like I feel like I've seen as compelling evidence has been presented, and like in Skinwalker Ranch recently and in Terror in the Sky. The difference is you don't have any data to prove that it's anomalous. Like, so
Right.
this is, I do agree that this is the first time that we're triangulating and using all these different, equipment and stuff. And so it is exciting. And if this phenomenon is as wide as it seems based on the reports I've been getting, it's only a matter of time before we either demystify it or get more confused. Maybe
I'm wrong, but I mean, I'd like to know what you guys think about this. It almost feels like we're getting to a point where we're going to learn how to, I don't want to say summon these things, but we'll be able to filter out whatever it is to see them easier, whether it be a frequency, whether it be a spectrum of light or sound, that we just haven't found yet, or it's right there, just nobody's noticed it. Because I mean, when we've talked to Lou in the past and we've talked to McGowan, they've both have hinted at these frequencies that you can send out and things start to appear. So I'm curious to know, like, are we on sort of the verge of that being not only, knowable knowledge, but the equipment to measure these things will also be very accessible to people.
Yeah, I have my doubts that we'll be able to summon them with a frequency or something like that. I think there's still just so much unknowns. We need to,
depends, right?
Yeah.
If they're real.
And I think that, one of the benefits of, this stuff like UAPX project is, these are, looking at FLIR cameras, a lot of us don't really have the intuition to see what something is on a FLIR camera. So I think that kind of doing these experiments and building up that intuition and seeing what is normal using these equipments will help us kind of establish that baseline. So I think as these experiments continue, it'll be easier and easier to kind of parse out what the true anomalies are. But either way, even if you don't find anomalies, I think it'll be interesting just seeing what we see with these types of equipment.
Well, she's right in when she says that, again, going back to what she found in 5 days, anomalous, not anomalous, whatever, I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on the government to be like, we need to do better than this, because people are not impressed. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the government's going to go back and say that, but I feel like if what do you think is going to happen first? Do you think it's going to be a civilian project, say like Galileo, that finds something and posts it first, or do you think it's going to come from our leadership, in other words, government first?
Yeah, I think Galileo and UAPX, because they're the organizations that are actually pointing the cameras up into the sky and looking for these things. The military isn't really doing that. They're flying around and they're trying to determine what they're about to collide into, or what these things that they're seeing that are, in their space.
What do you think the military would be okay with that then?
Necessarily.
Do you think the military would be okay with it?
With civilians beating them to the punch of UFOs? I think, yeah, definitely. I don't know why they'd have unless, of course, it is military technology or something like that, then they might not like it so much.
Would the ETs be okay with that, I think, is the bigger question. I know in Skinwalker Ranch, I heard Travis Taylor refer to something like the extraterrestrial protocol, like for contact, and I did some Googling and I couldn't find a ton on it. Like SETI has one, and then there was some other, I guess, thinker who put together one. And it's interesting because there was sort of this hypothesis or theory that, like, if we were to make contact, right, like, how would we go about it? First, we'd like remotely spy on them, and then we would like slowly but surely, like, we'd go visit their planet, and we'd like collect things and take specimens, and then we would just start showing up, like, obviously, but like peacefully, but maybe a little vaguely or confusingly, and then we would try to make like face-to-face contact. So, and also the other part of that is that first contact would be initiated by the more advanced life form, and all of these documentaries and conversations, we're always assuming the UFOs are the more advanced life form. So I think, what would first contact look like? I feel like if we are really presuming these are ETs, they're going to decide that, and it seems like civilians more likely, and that then there might have to be some government disclosure after that, like, in order to have a certain narrative or control over it, right? But I don't know if this one, like maybe other things in the news, is going to be something that they'll be able to pin down or lock down as much. Oh shoot, you're muted, Lou.
Sorry. I gotta say, this is one of the things I love about you. The idea that who's to say these things in these vehicles are more advanced than us? Like, that's wild to think about. Like, how could they not be? But at the same time, you're absolutely right. Like, they could be the lesser form of the two, like, which is scary. Like, I don't know what's scarier, that we are more intelligent than these things that are outrunning our most sophisticated machines.
Really, I kind of think that that's probably not the case, though. But we have that illusion. Oh, we're just like organically finding all this, and they don't know we're on to them, right? Or they can't keep themselves secret, right? Like, that's kind of a big. It's like, well, what if aliens are real? Why aren't they just showing up on the White House lawn and broadcasting live? It's like, well, would we do that if we were to find life on Mars? Probably not. And we don't even do that with like uncontacted, isolated tribes on Earth today. Like, the people will form groups to decide what to do about groups of people, humane. But then there's also, we actually have there's different human beings on our own planet that will deal with that it's not, I say problem because I was about to segue that there's the negative aspect, right? Where you have trees being torn down, or the environment being destroyed, and some of these isolated tribes are, right? And people are just trying to make money, right? And then you have advocates that are for them, right? So you have that happening here on Earth today. And so when we think about like what would first contact look like, I feel like it's gonna be somewhat organic.
I feel like not to say, I think we have a pretty good idea whether or not there's life on Mars, but we did just send a whole bunch of probes there, not kind of just land
They're
there
probes,
and
though.
take over. Yeah, they're probes. I think if we do make contact, it'll be through a probe, and it won't. And the probe is like accidental. Like, we didn't mean for you to see the probe, and you guys saw it, and kind of thing. And I think maybe that's what we're seeing is like, I love Rather's idea of von Neumann probes, of these things that eat matter and create other probes that go and explore the galaxy. And maybe that's what we're seeing. We're just seeing these probes that stop by here for a little bit, collect some matter, and then scoot off to the next star system. But yeah, it's a fun experiment, that's for sure. It's a fun thought experiment. But there were a couple of super chats that she had answered, so I apologize if you feel like we didn't get to your super chat, but thank you guys for the donations. But I feel like she answered a lot of these questions that we had started and put to the side. So this one that came from Laura Campbell: did you share the UAPX team that used your abilities to help them call in, and if so, what did they think? Obviously, she talked about sort of that initiative and how all of them were like, no, we're not doing that. And that's kind of comforting a little bit to me. I mean, I think there's room for experiments like that. There's definitely room for it. It should be done. But I don't think adding that element to this experiment would have been helpful. And I think that was a good call. And like you said earlier, rather, like for her to sort of, or you said it, Jane, to compartmentalize that part of her, of how she likes to experiment or look into things, she was able to literally compartmentalize, put it to the side and say, okay, that's not going to work here. That's not what we're doing here. Let's continue with what these sides. This is, like she said, more nuts and bolts kind of adventure. So I think there's room for those types of things, but I'm glad that they didn't inject it into this. So thank you for asking the question, Laura. I hope that was a pretty good answer to it, because that seemed like one. Let's see here. This is one. I'm sorry I didn't get to this one. I meant to ask, but we just ran out of time. Since your film was released, have any other Navy personnel contacted you regarding the Tic Tac incident? That's a great question. That's probably one only she can answer. Maybe David Altman is still in the chat. If he is, he might be able to answer that. He possibly knows.
Well, I thought that she did allude to that someone did contact her about this stuff. Maybe I misheard that, but I think it was just a sentence or two that she was contacted. Maybe I misheard, but
I mean, it wouldn't shock me, right? Like, why wouldn't somebody contact her after kind of capturing the things that she did? I mean, that Tic Tac that they caught was pretty cool. like even though they were like
emails. I mean, I get emails of UFO sightings. I'm sure, if anything, she probably is getting too much communication. People sharing their sightings with her would be my guess. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying, I mean, like, imagine if that Tic Tac footage that she captured is what they presented at Capitol Hill, and it came from a government source. We would all be freaking out about it. We'd all be like, "Oh my God, that's amazing! Look how crystal clear it is. It's like, it's beautiful. Like, it's captured beautifully." But I wonder what Mick West thinks about that footage. Has anybody seen if he said anything on what they captured yet?
I haven't seen him.
I gotta ask him. Him. Anyway,
I'm guessing once the data comes out and the SCU paper is out, that he'll probably comment on that.
Chime in,
yeah.
Neurostream with a $10 sticker. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Truly appreciate you guys' support. So we've basically done that. I've got, you guys want to do UFO video of the day?
Yeah.
Do it.
Cool. Awesome. I hope it's a good one. I picked it out this afternoon. I feel like it might be too small, but you know what? We'll go with it. Here we go. That's right. It's time for UFO video of the day. Don't even worry about it. We got you covered. Orbs, CGI, hubcaps, military videos, leaks, and endless triangle videos. How did you find so many? Happening now. Jane, Rather, and Lou break down the hottest UFO videos from around the world. Right now on UFO video of the day. Don't even worry about it. We got you covered. UFO Video of the Day is brought to you by the Internet, the Unidentified Celebrity Review, with live shows every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yes, it's UFO Video of the Day. Hold on to your butts, because you're about to see the unbelievable UFO Video of the Day.
I'm gonna have to update the time.
I love that the intro for this segment is longer than usually the videos we show.
Because every video is notoriously short.
I love that promo. Love that promo. All right, so this video that we've got here has no sound. It was apparently filmed in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. Let me take a look at the name of the file. I believe it was Chicago. Give me a second, but let me play it here for you guys. Like I said, unfortunately, no sound, but let me know what you guys think of this. Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like three, just for the people in radio audience here. It's cell phone footage from the ground in an urban area, so cityscape, and we see three faintly glowing dots moving across the sky. And it's filmed for about, I don't know, would you say 20-30 seconds there, you guys? And that's it.
And no sound.
No sound, and it kind of cuts off. The thing that it just cuts off like in the middle of flight. Like, why would you stop the camera rolling here at 34 seconds? I don't know.
I don't think it's fake. I mean, it could be. Obviously, I mean, anything's possible. It's just my gut reaction. I'm definitely curious, like, the more to the story, and if there's a video with sound and all of that. And
that's the thing with UFO Video of the Day, is it just comes from the internet. We scour the internet for some of the best videos. This was one that was floating around a couple weeks ago.
It could be drones in formation. It could be a triangular shaped drone. So it's a little bit hard to tell with no sound.
Yeah.
We get some nice frame of reference with the building, but I'm not sure how low flying that is.
It almost feels... Go ahead, rather.
Well, I think it could be satellites too. Satellites are high flying planes in formation. They're not doing anything unexplainable, right? They're not doing any 90-degree angles or zooming off at crazy speeds.
Satellites.
Yeah, there's no 5 observables, but it seems like it's almost rotating.
Yeah, I think it's lights in formation, or there are lights that are connected.
I think my first gut reaction to this, only based on a couple of things, like I think it's fake only because there's no sound, and the cameraman does this weird thing where he zooms in and then back out to capture the buildings and then back in real quick, as if, I don't know, it just feels like, oh, let me
if you're gonna fake it, make it better than this, though.
Fake, but it's possible, Lou. It's possible. I mean,
it's the thing
information. It's so hard.
The thing I do like about it is that it's not insane. Like, it's not crazy sensational. It's very subtle. It's a really subtle video. So that's the part of me that goes, maybe
an actual video something here makes it look fake. Is it just because there's 2 ways to look at a UFO video about witness behavior that's sus, right? Yeah. Which I'll tell you, all videos are short. They never film the whole thing ever. So I'm just gonna tell you that the most boring.
They do, like, I mean, one that I'm thinking of is like the
if it disappears,
the rubber duck, for example. Yeah, I mean, that was an hour-long video. But yeah, I feel like when it is real, when it's something that they're genuinely confused by, the video is usually like 15, 20, 30 minutes long.
That's what
Depending
I'm
on how
wondering though.
long.
Is there
Yeah.
a longer video with sound? Because we're making a lot of assumptions based on just like this quick upload on YouTube, just
But
on the
that's
witness behavior.
UFO
But
video of the day, Jane.
right, but is there
And it-
anything in actual video, like weird light reflections or anything that you're seeing, especially with your film background?
Well,
And
here's the thing that made me feel like it was possibly fake was the rotation of the lights, because I've seen that very similar thing on Third Phase of Moon fake videos where this triangle of lights rotates. And I think if you're gonna sell this as real, you know, you're gonna do it exactly the way this is done, because it's not over sensationalized. But if it's real, there should be sound with it. Like there should be sound with it. So I don't know why whoever uploaded this posted it without sound. So that's what leads me to think that it's not real, because I mean, it's clearly a newer camera. I mean, look at the resolution on those buildings, especially when he zooms in. That's pretty good. So I'm assuming it's a newer camera, and you know, like if it's real, I would assume the sound with it would be pretty good. So why would you take that out?
maybe because
That's
you're
why
cursing or you're talking about your personal life or something like that.
I mean, unless you're
Well,
saying, hi,
yeah.
my name's Luis Victor Jimenez. I live at, blah, 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 blah. Here's my social security number. Like, I mean, I'm
What?
hearing someone's voice. I don't know, an idea problem you would have. But what are you going to say, rather? Sorry.
Well, if it's fake, obviously someone's taking a camera and then zooming up into the sky, right? So if they're
Right.
trying to fake this, I think that they would, be faking their response too and show the audio. So it would be inexplicable to me that they'd be, zooming up in the sky and seeing nothing. So I'm not too concerned about the audio. And it looks to me like they might be kind of passing through a cloud or being obscured by a cloud at the end. So maybe that's why they kind of got cut off after 20 or 30 seconds.
Why not also, and
yeah.
I'll just say this, like holding up a phone and filming something for more than a minute, your arms start to hurt unless you're leaning on something, like for real. Like,
People
and
busy too. They really
Yeah.
nobody you're usually not expecting to see it.
I gotta go to Whole Foods.
It's
Forget
just
this
you just
UFO.
it's not like actually I mean I would say the vast majority of witnesses, that's a stretch. I'd have to do like the counting. But most witnesses, like they're not hanging around for the whole experience. They don't usually want to follow up with me. They don't want to keep looking into it. It's like they just want to get it off their chest. They want to be anonymous. Sometimes they are self-conscious about the audio in the video. So you could be right. This could be fake. I don't know enough about the case. These are really hard for me as a researcher because I'm like, well, when did it happen? Were there other
Right. No,
accounts
that's
in Chicago?
like I mean, those are the questions. Those are the questions that I have too, right?
This is when I would investigate though, and like go in with an assumption that it could be real and try to debunk it from there. But maybe there's some, video experts in the chat. 'Cause I love to learn more. That's why I ask, like, if there's anything you're seeing with your
So it wasn't Chicago, it was Boston. Excuse me, I got that wrong. So it was Boston, not Chicago.
We have a place, we have a location.
Yeah. So yeah, if anybody in the Boston area knows more about this video, let us know, and we'll revisit it if we need to. But it seems like one day you have to. Oh, Bill's telling us okay, Bill, just send me the video. We'll use it for UFO video of the day. Bill's got a video that he's telling me about in private on the private chat. So we'll yeah, dude, we'd love to have your video for UFO video of the day. Event tied with a $5 donation. Anyone that's interested in Von Neumann probes should check out the Bobbyverse books by Dennis E. Taylor. Super fun. Have you heard of those, rather?
I haven't, but I'm writing it down. I'll check it out. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard of that book.
Thanks, Event.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
About Bobby's World. I don't know if that like quite a bit.
I love that show. That was like one of my that was the show I was watching pre like right before school. That's a show I'd watch every morning. while I was getting ready for school. But yeah, hey, thanks for the donation. Truly appreciate it. Okay, so that's UFO video of the day. Bill sent me his video, so I'm going to save that for the next UFO video of the day, and then since it's Bill's video, maybe we'll get Bill in here and he can sort of walk us through what we're looking at. So thanks for the video, Bill. All right, so some news and notes, some changes, or a change coming to the show, and I haven't even told you guys. I probably should have told you guys first. But I told Bill, we're going to take the slot. We're going to take the 5 p.m. slot. We're going to go from 5 to 7 on Thursday, starting June, what, Bill? Let's bring him in. June what, Bill? 5th?
Hold on. Let me get on. June 9th.
June 9th. So we'll be going... Right? That's a Thursday, I think so. I don't know. I don't have a calendar in front of me. Yep, it was a Wednesday last year, so I'm thinking it's a Thursday this year. So we're going to be moving the show on Thursdays, June 9th from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 to 9 p.m. or excuse me, 8 to 10 on the East Coast. So I got to tell you,
you guys got to be prime time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you said that, I was kind of like, you know what? You're right, Bill. We do have to be prime time. But I wanted to poll the audience just because I care about you guys. I want you guys to have a say in this too. And you didn't help me at all. Both polls were almost exactly the same. It was like 46% wanted to change, and then the 54% wanted us to stay the same. So yes, it was leaning a little bit towards staying at the time we were, but honestly, I made this decision for me. Like, this makes my life a little easier to start a little bit later in the afternoon. It gives me more time to plan, gives me more time to work if I need to work. It just allows for a little bit more time, or, God forbid something happens.
Wait a second.
Yeah, what?
You didn't tell Jane or Rather on this?
Nope. Because they didn't care. They didn't care.
Cool with it.
Yeah. I mean, they were cool either way. They were just like the audience. They didn't help me at all. I was like, well, what would make life easier for you guys? They're like, doesn't matter to me. I'm good either way. So I was like, damn it, you guys are. This was really put on me. Yeah, this was 100% on me.
Before I leave, I just want to say that the thing you have that I sent you, is real.
Okay.
And I'll get into more detail when you show it, but it's just so everybody knows, because I'm sure they're going to tune in. It's looped. I looped it and I zoomed in on it. But I'm telling you, you guys are going to see, like, because I showed it to Lou Elizondo. He goes, Bill, that's something there.
Did you take it?
Oh, yeah. I do Skywatch.
Okay.
But I'll explain it more.
The next
minutes
UFO, we got a few minutes left only, but next UFO video of the day, we'll this is what we'll use, and I won't watch it until we premiere it, so we'll all go fresh into it.
You might want to watch it.
Okay, all right.
I'll react
like
live.
That.
You have to share with
I like reacting live and potentially making
a that is spontaneous.
All
right.
Well, we got it. All right, Bill. Thank you, man. We're out at 54, right?
Yes.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Bill.
And good night to everybody, and have a happy holiday weekend upcoming.
What's the holiday this weekend?
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
Yeah.
See you guys.
All right, Bill. Thank you, man. Well, you guys. So that's the change. That's what we're doing. We're going to be going from 5 to 7 on Thursdays. So I hope that doesn't inconvenience half the audience. I hope you guys are cool with it. I'm sorry if you hate the decision. This was really truly a me. Like, this is all, but it's my fault. So if you want to get angry at anybody, you can get angry at
Bill. Get angry at Bill.
Yeah, get angry at Bill. But what I wanted to ask you guys, because I think we should do this next week, is and we're going to be having the director of the film, but the Ariel school sighting film. We're going to be having the director come on next month. And did you guys have a chance to see it yet?
I haven't watched it yet, but I will 100% be watching it.
I think we should. What do you guys think? Should we do a review this week of it? The next Thursday?
Yeah, I'm going to be gone next Thursday. I'm going to be traveling out to Huntsville, Alabama. But
that's right. Damn. Well, we got to
I
get
might
you.
be
Are
on
you
the
going to be
following
able to?
Thursday, believe it or not, because my
Oh
kiddo's
no.
in a
What's going on?
show.
Damn. All right,
Darn it.
we gotta get our schedules together.
Here. Yeah, I need
So
to.
SCU conference is next week.
Yeah, a week from tomorrow, I think it
Damn,
begins.
that snuck up
But
on
can't
us.
Can you like stream in live from it?
Yeah.
For like 5
Well-
minutes, maybe?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We're still doing 3 to 5 next week on the time.
Oh,
Right?
that's
It's not
right.
going to be changed yet. I think I might be in an airplane during the 3 to 5 next week.
3 to 5. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll do something on the weekend. We'll stream something from there on the weekend. We'll figure it out. I'll get with you before you fly out there, and I'm sure we'll do something. I love a spot for Rather Live. I know you'll be recording things, so we'll talk about that stuff when you get back.
Awesome.
But there's also a couple of other things happening. So tomorrow's a big day. There's a huge article that's going to be dropped on the debrief tomorrow, and it's so big that I'm going to be doing a show at 9 a.m. tomorrow with Christopher Plain, who's in the audience. I haven't even told him. I told him I'd tell him when I get back from the gym, but he was available to do a 9 a.m. show, and it's Tim McMillan, Micah Hanks, and Chris Plain are kind of all three worked on this this thing. I don't want to give too much away. I know what it is, but I don't want to ruin it for whatever these guys are planning. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun day.
Here's a question. I don't know if you can answer or not. Feel free to say no. But there's been rumors that the same person who released the rubber duck, the NYP UFO guy, that he's going to be releasing, it's related to that.
It's related to that. Yeah, it has. There's going to be a lot of stuff released. Just weirdly enough, at this Vernal, Utah symposium, Carl Crusher's releasing something. He's going to be putting that out on his YouTube channel as soon as he does his presentation out there. Tomorrow, I'm going to be live streaming from Chris Lato's channel at noon. We're going to be doing an NFT launch, a balloon launch from the event, both from, I believe, either Germany. Yeah, from Germany. There's a balloon launch event in Germany that we'll be live streaming, and then we'll also live stream the balloon launch from Utah. And basically, they're putting the NFTs on memory cards, sending it to space, and then when it comes back down, the NFTs will be available for purchase. And I think they've got a couple more slots left to buy a place for these NFTs in the Council of 42, and then after that, the prices are going to vary depending on what happens in the market with the NFTs. But it seems like a really cool project. I mean, I know some people, which is weird, people are like calling Chris Lato a scam artist because he's trying to push almost like a disclosure coin where these NFTs would fund more research, fund more projects, or fund shows like this. Our show, we're part of the 42 first members of this UAP society. And so, if those NFTs are successful, that's a good thing for this show. That means that, if it's really successful, we wouldn't have to have a Patreon. We wouldn't have to have these ways to collect money, because these NFTs would be able to literally fund the show. So there's a lot of possibilities, but like with anything, buyer beware. Like, NFTs are a very, very volatile market. There's so much to learn about it. So I'd say, like with any investment, take your time, look into it, because it's not a light investment. I believe it's around $3,300 to $3,600 to get into this. So I think that's what's kind of rubbing people the wrong way. But I don't think Chris is doing it for nefarious reasons. Like I don't get that vibe at all, especially after talking to him for a few hours and stuff. But it's exciting. It's a really, like, we were talking about doing something with NFTs last summer, and because we were just so unknowledgeable, and the time to sort of dive into that stuff is very time consuming. We just kind of got discouraged with it and didn't really do anything with it. But Chris Lato's picking up the torch and trying to fund UFO research through NFTs. And I think it's, hell, why not give it a shot? No guarantees with anything, but I think it's a worthwhile, especially now with the way NFTs could take off or who knows, could be a good thing.
Is it possible? I don't really understand NFTs, and I've tried to. That's what's sad. But
It's
would it be
okay. It's
possible to
confusing.
create like an NFT for like a UFO case, like exclusive like evidence, right? That wouldn't be copyable and
I
like
would think yes, but I would probably bend Chris Lato's ear about it. He definitely would be able to give you a much clearer answer than I have, or I can. I just literally set up my Meta wallet. Like that's like I had no idea what that was, and now I've got a 0.01 Ethereum in my account, and I've got so it's $20. It's 0.01 equals $20 on Ethereum.
here's
So,
an original UFO picture NFT kind of thing, right?
right.
Like,
No, I mean it could be cool, you know. I mean, like I think there's a lot of people who are calling BS on this kind of stuff, but I would say a lot of people were doing the same thing when the internet first came around. They couldn't see the value in the World Wide Web. I remember when they were explaining email on the Today Show, and they're like, I'll just send you a letter. Why the hell would I ever send you an electronic email? And what's this at thing? Like, they were so confused, and they thought it was a fad. And I feel like what are we going into Web 3.0 now? I think Web 3.0 is the same kind of thing. People they're so confused and they don't see the potential in it. So they automatically are fearful of it, which makes sense because it is confusing. Like the idea of a virtual economy that somehow bleeds into the real world is wild, but it seems like that's where we're going. So rather, you look skeptical. What's the face for?
I think it's a great idea, like the decentralized science and DAOs and NFTs kind of fund those DAOs. I think is an interesting idea. Where I would like to see Chris Lato's project flush out a little bit more is the actual smart contracts and the distributed autonomous organization, like the rules behind that. Because you could do really cool stuff and codify the laws and how it all works so that there's, no chance of, everything works as you say it will work, programmatically speaking. I don't think that Chris Lato's project is quite there yet. So I'd be, I'd advise people to do some research to know what they're actually buying. But I don't know, NFTs, it's a interesting, cool idea. I hope it succeeds.
It doesn't matter if it's UAP or NFT or like whatever acronym, Rather's going to have the questions. He's going to bring it.
I think you're right. I think once those things get figured out, also there's got to be, I feel like regulation to this world is coming as well. Like at some point regulation is going to be hitting this market. How that's going to look, I have no clue, but yeah, I think you're right. I mean, like I said, it's the reason why I talk about the project and I'm passionate about the project is because of the person behind it. Like he's I think we can all agree that Chris Lato, retired F-16 fighter pilot, is doing this for the right reasons. So that's why I want to support it. But I also warn everybody, like Rather said, do your research before you invest in anything. And if $3,600 is something you're going to be pissed at losing, then do not invest. Like don't do it.
Yeah, I view it as
$3,600 is something that
science and
yeah. I mean, make a donation to the Galileo project or something if you don't feel comfortable with that. But if you are comfortable,
well, I was saying, you could view buying the NFT as a donation to the science efforts.
Yes, exactly. And look, I was talking to Chris Lato also. Like he's got some pretty big financial people who are interested in that are investing in it, and the slots are filling up. So it's not like it sounds that crazy to so many people. And the cool thing is that it's people that normally don't talk about this topic. So for them to get excited about funding UFO science through an NFT, awesome. I think that's just gravy on the mashed potatoes. And hopefully it's gravy that produces something. Like that is obviously where I think everyone wants it to go. But again, just be careful before you invest anything. With all of that out of the way, you guys got anything coming up this week before we get out of here?
Just follow me over in like 45 minutes or so. 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Tucking the thing. So 7:15 my time. 8:15 Eastern. Where are you? What time is it right now?
It's going to be 7:15. Well, 5:15. 5:15.
5:15. We're talking the thing with Great Levac. So come over you can take like a pee break, or get a snack or whatever, and come join us. We'll break it down.
That sounds fun.
So the movie The Thing, Stephen, John Carpenter? Yeah.
Cult classic 1982. And, how realistic is the alien in that?
Rather, what do you got? Anything?
I hope to get a video this weekend, but I'm going to be prepping for the SCU conference coming up and getting ready for that.
What are you doing for prep?
I'm going to try to listen to some of the conference things from last year. I know Ryan Graves gave a good talk last year, and I'm going to maybe come with some questions for some of the scientists there.
Ooh, I forgot to ask you your scores for Skinwalker Ranch, yesterday's episode.
Highly entertaining. 9 for entertainment, 4 for science. I was a little skeptical about some of your science.
We really were missing.
Yeah, we were really missing you yesterday. Yeah. All right, we'll get into it. Hopefully, when you come back. Damn, I meant to squeeze that in earlier. But that's interesting. Okay, we'll talk about it. We'll get in more on that. Will you be here on Wednesday for next week's Skinwalker?
Oh yeah, I'll be.
Okay, so we'll get your score. We'll talk about it then. All right, you guys. Thank you all so damn much for tuning into the show. Thank you to the KGRADB family, DOS Tapes for providing the tunes. This show will be available on iTunes and Spotify shortly after the show. So leave us a rate and review. Thank you, Patreon members, YouTube members, super chatters, moderators. You guys are absolutely out of this world amazing. Want to say thank you to our newest Patreon member, Crystal Caffrey, and Melissa Strobel, Chris Gonzalez, Ronan Carmel. Thank you guys so much for becoming Patreon members. Truly, we got links for Rather, for Jane, for the merch store, and for our guest Caroline Cory in the description below. You guys have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful weekend. Hug your family. Kiss them a little more over the weekend. And appreciate the ones that you love, because you have no idea when they may never be there, especially after this week's events. Just be conscious of that. But have a wonderful weekend. We love you all. Peace.
News 12 Sports with Pat Murphy.
Great news regarding Bills tight end Kevin Everett. He moved his arms and legs today. And doctors now believe that's the wrong video, by the way. That is not the right video.
I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.
Thank you.